So Monica, I just want to ask for your consent if I could share this with my teacher and my classmates.
Yes.
And then I will be having a live script. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, how did you end up choosing this career? Like, what was the moment that you made this choice?
I didn't choose this career chose me. I was first introduced to Head Start when I was 17 years old. I had the opportunity to launch a first Head Start when I was 17. There was a kindergarten teacher asked to start one in a very rural community that didn't have any early learning programs. And I had 4 hours a day as an ROP student, and she handed me the manual and said, "Find me children." And so I just launched and did that to get a good grade, actually, for my senior year in school. But when I went to college, I chose something else. I went to school on a business scholarship. But as I worked in the business field and did well in that, what I found is it didn't matter the same. So I always returned to what hooked me when I was 17, is going out and finding underserved families that didn't have everything they needed to become lifelong learners or know that there was a different way to do things. And when I realized people actually get paid to run a program that children have opportunities starting at 3 and 4 years old, it made a difference to me, and I switched my careers.
Was there anybody in your life that inspired you into this role at all?
Actually, it's my mom.
Your mom?
Yes. So Head Start was launched in 1965, and my mom was a very young mother who had a full ride scholarship to college to Humboldt State. And she was from the mountains, she was Native, and she was the first one of her family to go to college, and she didn't know she had to redo the paperwork every year. So she did 1 year, and then she was a dropout without intending to drop out. And then she became a young mom, and it was too expensive to put us in childcare. So she was a stay-at-home mom that babysat and sewed for people so she would have enough money for food. Fast forward to when I'm 17, I hear about the mandate for Head Start to find the families. That explained my mother. And I imagined that if my mother would have had the opportunity that Head Start gives families, she would have got her doctorate in theology when she was a young woman instead of after retiring.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Okay.
So when I say that I have a career that matters to me, it goes back to the depth of my own childhood.
Okay. No, that's awesome. Is there anything part of the job that is really tough?
The hardest part of my job is running a federal grant that is generated funding by mandates that are legitimate.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily linked to your own community. So meeting all of the data and the numbers when I lead with my heart, it has been hard for me to make the change from just gung-ho wanting to do what's best for families or at-risk families and then having to align it with all of the standards. And it took me a long time to be able to put on both hats of leading with my heart and wrapping it around the standards. I know that the standards have legitimacy, and that's why it continues to be funded. But I didn't want any restrictions when I knew that I worked with people and worked for people that wanted the best for communities, and then I had to make it match really strict standards.
Okay.
It was a barrier for me.
Okay. So what would you say, what keeps you going when things get hard?
The best thing that keeps me going is when I walk into a room of current Head Start children and their families, and one of their parents or older sibling comes to me and asks me if I remember them, and they tell me that they remember me and they loved the time they were in my classroom when I was a classroom teacher. And that actually just happened our last family dinner when an older girl that I actually didn't recognize recognized me and said, "Do you remember me? You were my teacher." And it just means the world to me. It keeps me going.
And how many years have you been doing this?
43 years.
43 years. Okay. And how long have you been the Head Start manager or director?
I have been the director of Round Valley Indian Tribes for 16 years. Prior to that, I was a site director of a program in Willits, and I did that for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
But my early learning career started out as an aide. So I started as an aide, and I worked my way up to an assistant teacher, and then a lead teacher, and then a site supervisor, and then a director. So I have had all of I understand every role in the community. I've also been a parent of Head Start, so I understand their barriers and what holds them back or what activates them as well.
If you can make some changes to a Head Start, what would it be?
That's a good question. It would be the ratios. I would have larger space, less children in one location. Our ratios of 35 square feet to one child isn't big enough, and I would double that. And so each child would have a larger classroom, less children in the same environment because they can grow better. It's just like when you put too many plants in one pot, it becomes root bound, and I believe that when you put active, energized children in a learning environment, that our classrooms are too small for their needs.
Where do you see a Head Start in Round Valley in the next 5 years?
That's so good. Did you make this question?
Yeah.
I could say that to a teacher. I see it thriving because I believe that the team that we have right now have been generated from people who get the process of documenting what they do and leading with their heart, and that's what stabilizes a program, and it's what keeps it, because they're not just in here for the paycheck. People are in here because they also care. And so I hope to see, my goal would be that it would grow in the way that maybe we would have an early learning program, and that we would be at least doing home-based early learning activities with 0 to 5 instead of 3 to 5.
Okay. So how do you take care of yourself? What is your self-care outside of work?
You have good questions. I need to get better at that. I have a very supportive home life, and I have hobbies that are separate from my work, and I have activities, and I also have people that are my go-to people in my own home life. Probably mostly the support of my husband and my older children.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I could grow in that. I'm not very good at taking care of myself.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's see. What advice would you give someone who's thinking about this career?
I would tell them to volunteer in a classroom before they ever go to school for it, and see if it's really their thing, because as rewarding as it can be, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing for me is to see a well-meaning person that goes to school for this, but it's really not who they are. It's maybe they value it, but it's not really in their DNA, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And so it's always a job to them.
Mm-hmm.
If someone comes to not only Head Start, but any early learning program for a paycheck, they're in the wrong field.
They're in the wrong field. Okay. So is there any questions you might have for me?
No, but I want to say that in my education, that's what I want to bring up, that my first degree was in business and also fashion and design. My second degree was child development, and after I had done that for about 25 years, I actually got into law school.
Wow.
And when you were asking me what kept me in this field, it's that actually this program in this community matters to me because of my tribal connection. I don't know that I would be as dedicated if it wasn't my heritage of children, that I know their struggles in a way that's different, and I don't have to bring them up. It just matters to me differently. So when I walked away from going to law school, I could have been fighting law cases, or I could come up here and be teaching children to laugh and finger point and be seen and be heard and have enough food, and most of all to have social justice. And children will learn colors and numbers, but if they can learn to get along, ask questions, and take turns and save space for each other, then we've made a difference in young people.
Okay, I like that one. I do. I like that one. Let me see. I feel like I'm missing a question, but I really don't know what it is.
Okay. I don't know that you're missing a question, but there are people, the expectations of Head Start, I'm going to say, is that Many of the directors have a master's degree. I do not. All of our teachers are expected to have a bachelor's degree, and it's really hard. It's a hard sell to recruit people to work for a Head Start that has mandates, unfunded mandates. So they're expected to have all these achievements, but their income doesn't match what other people with the same degrees have.
Yeah.
And that's why I like to say that people need to make sure it's what they really, that they're all in, because it's never going to be about the paycheck ever.
Yeah.
But it's also, I'm an example of, I'm almost ready to, I could retire now, and I still get joy when I come in and kids run to me and want me to see that now they can do something, or, save a space at the table for me to eat lunch with them.
Yeah.
And not interrupt each other and say, it's my turn to talk. It's more, that's the biggest thing, is that it has to be, if it's going to be your life work, it has to matter more than your paycheck.
Is there anybody's story that sticks out to you the most over the last 42 years?
In children?
Both. Adults and children.
Yes, I have two, actually, that I'd like to say.
Yes.
But it might be emotional. I was a teacher in a program, and in Head Start, one of the reasons I love it is we are required to have parent involvement. And it's really hard to get parents who are struggling or really low income, who are just making it, to have the courage to come in and volunteer and really roll up their sleeves. And I had one mom that came into my program and enrolled her twins, and she was from the Battered Women's Shelter, and she currently was wearing sunglasses to hide a battered face. And she didn't want to come into the classroom, and I let her sign her children in and then have breakfast with us. And she started setting up my art easel. And then she started volunteering once a week, and then she got in her first apartment, and then she got her first certificate, and then she graduated from college, and she became the director that replaced me in my job in Willits. And it doesn't get much better than that.
Is she still the director?
She is.
Do you see her often?
I do see her. She stops by my house.
Oh, nice.
She bought a house. She still is, her children have grown up. She has 3. She's never remarried. Don't need to talk about that, but she's done it on her own.
Yeah.
She's bought her first house. She has her degrees. She's continuing to run the program. And so she is someone who gets it from the ground up. She knows what it means to be confidential, and she knows what it means to make sure the families have what they need, and find a way to make it happen for them. So that's one of my best ones. I have lots that I could say about children, but most of all, I've seen a lot of children. Our foster care system, they're an automatic in.
Yeah.
And so there's one little boy that we think that we have to teach him all these things, all these benchmarks that children have to learn before they go to school, but he had been from a very violent situation, and he couldn't even be in the middle of the room. He had to have his back to the wall so he could see at all times, and he couldn't be touched. And so I was a teacher at the time, and I finally got so I could draw around a body tracing or a hand tracing when you do like just the hand thing. He could take that kind of touch. And by the end of the school year, he had bonded enough, not only with me, but with other teachers, that he would roll up and give a really hard, like awkward hug.
Yeah.
It almost hurt because he didn't know how to be affectionate.
Did he just start that, or he?
No, he had never done that. He wouldn't
never done
hug.
that.
He wouldn't give a hug, or you couldn't help him take a nap. He didn't like to be touched or hugged. And so in a school year, I got to work with him through just drawing around a hand or pencil grip or different things. And he had nap time at our school. And one time he just rolled into my lap and kind of hugged me, and it almost hurt because he was so awkward. And then he reunited with a family member that wasn't the one who that he'd been in a trauma situation with. And I didn't see him again. I didn't see him for a long time. And he went to the same tribal health that I went to in another town. And so I was there waiting to see the doctor, not at work. He came in with his family member that he was living with, who didn't know me, and his baby sister, and he was probably 7 or 8 by this time. And the only thing we could really do that was affectionate with him is we could read to him, and he would sit next to me and just kind of sit there, and I could read to him as long as I didn't get in his space too much. And so when I saw him at the health center, he went over and he got a book, and he was 8, maybe even 9, and he came over and I didn't know if he would remember me, and I smiled, and his family member knew who I was, but we didn't know each other well, and he came and sat right next to me like he used to when he was 4, and he handed me a book, and he said, "Teacher, will you read to me?" And I wasn't even at work. And
Yeah.
those things mean the world to me, that it lasted and it mattered and he still remembered and he took it with him.
How cute. So how many years was that afterwards? Like,
So he was in my program when he was 4, and he was
Okay.
probably 8 or 9, so it was maybe even 4.